When I got the call about Aunt May's will, I thought it was going to be a quiet handover. Some old furniture, maybe her tea set, and the land she loved so much. 15 acres of countryside she once called her soul's refuge. I figured I'd fix the porch, keep the chickens, maybe plant something. The place looked tired when I pulled up, peeling paint, mailbox bent like it had been hit by a baseball bat. I unlocked the door and was greeted by dust, silence, and a stack of unopened mail that felt heavier than it looked. 2 days in, I was knee-deep in cleaning when I heard voices outside. Mail. Official sounding. I stepped out, wiping my hands on my jeans. 3 guys were walking the boundary line with orange spray paint and a stack of metal stakes. "Can I help you?" I called out. One of them looked up. Yellow vest, sunglasses, clipboard. He didn't even blink. Survey crew. Prepping for initial grading. Condos going in. Condos? My brain stalled. On whose land? Right here. He pointed toward the edge of my field like it wasn't real. Halcyon Estates. You'll want to stay clear during excavation. I live here, I said slowly. This is my land. He raised a brow, then dug into his bag and pulled out a folded document. Work order says otherwise. Development approvals cleared. You'll get formal notice soon. I took the paper from him. It had a stamped letterhead and a bunch of jargon that didn't explain a damn thing. Who signed off on this? County office, he said. Not my job to argue. Just marking the lines. They went back to it like I was invisible. Inside, I stared at the paper like it might change if I looked hard enough. Then I pulled out the file Aunt May had left with the keys. There was a handwritten note on top, always keep the deed close. Some people think land is just empty space. I found the deed buried under tax forms and letters from decades ago. My name was freshly added, notarized. This was legal. It had to be. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound outside felt like a bulldozer pulling up early. I started Googling Halcyon Estates. Flashy website. Promises of luxury living with rustic charm. A quote from someone named Brent Holloway, progress doesn't wait for paperwork. I stared at that line like it was a threat. And maybe it was. By the next morning, they'd hammered more stakes into the grass. So I did what any rational person would do, I printed out my deed and duct-taped it to my mailbox. 2 hours later, someone tore it down. That's when I knew, this wasn't confusion. It was a takeover. And I wasn't going to roll over for it. Not without a fight. I was weeding the garden when I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. I looked up, and there she was. Tight bun. Navy blazer. Clipboard like a weapon. You need to vacate the perimeter, this land is under redevelopment. No hello. No question. Just that. I stood. I live here. She clicked her heels closer. This section scheduled for grading next week. This section is my backyard. I'm Deborah Langston, HOA President, she said, flashing the clipboard like it was a badge. This land falls under our jurisdiction. You're joking. She shoved a printed letter at me. Not at all. Eminent domain. We've filed for redevelopment authorization. I read it. County seal, but the signature was typed. No name. Not even my address on it. This isn't addressed to me. The land is within the HOA boundary. I stepped back. My deed says otherwise. Her eyes narrowed. We'll see what the board says. I folded the letter and handed it back. You'll need to bring more than a clipboard next time. She turned without a word and walked back to her car. Her heels left tiny dents in the soft dirt. That night, I called the county office. got transferred twice. Finally, a clerk answered. I need to verify a redevelopment permit filed by the HOA, I said. What's the parcel number? I gave it. Silence. Nothing's been filed for that address. Are you sure? If it's been filed, it's not in our system. Next day, a new letter showed up. This one stamped urgent HOA notice in red. No return address. Inside, non-compliance will result in fines and potential seizure. I called the number at the bottom. HOA office, a woman answered. This is Marshall Ellis. I got a letter. You're the new owner of parcel 14B. I am. And I'd like to know who approved redevelopment. One moment. Hold music. Then, all development approvals fall under Ms. Langston's authority. Does she have documentation? We don't disclose internal records. I hung up. The next time she showed up, I was ready. Phone in hand. Record button on. You're still here, she said, frowning. This is my land. She pointed at my chicken coop. Those aren't permitted livestock. They're legal in this county. She scoffed. We'll see what zoning says. You mean the same zoning office that says there's no permit on file? That made her pause. You'll regret obstructing this process. I'm not obstructing. I'm protecting. She turned on her heel. Don't say I didn't warn you. I watched her car disappear down the road. Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. That night, I placed my phone beside my bed. Voice memos. Motion alerts. Cloud backup. She wasn't done. And I wasn't sleeping soundly again until I figured out what game she was playing. I climbed into the attic with a flashlight and dust in my lungs. Aunt May's boxes were still stacked in crooked piles. Yellowed papers. A chipped mason jar full of buttons. Then I saw it, an old tin lockbox with her initials scratched on top. Inside were deeds, worn thin at the creases. Handwritten letters. Survey maps with faded ink and red pencil marks. I kept digging until I found it, one paper heavier than the rest, notarized in blue, with Elijah's signature. Perpetual private ownership. Protection from subdivision or forced seizure. I whispered it aloud. No one touches this land. I ran my thumb across the seal. Real. Verified. Not photocopied or faxed. Elijah knew this day would come. Aunt May kept this buried like a time capsule, waiting for someone to need it. That night, I called Shane. Old law school buddy. The only person I trusted to look at this and tell me I wasn't losing my mind. You're sure it's legit? I asked, pacing the porch. I need to see it in person, he said. But yeah, sounds like a land trust clause. Will it hold? If it's recorded with the county and hasn't been voided, it should. I scanned everything and sent him PDFs. 2 hours later, he texted, that clause is a sledgehammer. If it's filed, Halcyon can't touch it. So why did I wake up to concrete trucks 5 days later? I ran outside barefoot. They were pouring along the eastern edge, just beyond the fence line. Not even trying to be subtle. Hey! I shouted. What the hell is this? A man in a Halcyon polo shrugged. Retaining wall. On my property? He pointed to a clipboard. We've got clearance. You don't. Get off my land. Talk to Brent Halloway, he said, already walking away. I stormed back inside, yanked out the deed, and called the county office again. No, I'm not asking this time, I snapped. I'm reporting unauthorized development on protected land. Sir. I have documents. Legal ones. Do you want me to email them, or should I show up with a news crew? The line went quiet. Send everything to zoning@county.org, the voice said finally. I sent the email, attached every document, then called Shane again. They're building anyway. Then we stop them. We file for injunction. If that clause is real, and it looks like it is, they're breaking the law. I'm done playing polite, I said. He agreed. Then let's push back. I closed the lockbox, set it beside my bed, and didn't sleep. The next morning, I walked my fence line, phone in hand, camera on. Concrete had dried overnight like a scar on skin. But the war had just started, and Elijah's paper was my weapon. I dropped the folder onto Shane's desk and waited. He flipped through the documents, squinting. Where'd you get this permit copy? It was taped to my gate. No envelope. No explanation. He held the page to the light. See this seal? Yeah. Fake. Ink's too clean. And this signature? Gerald Timmons hasn't worked for the county in over a decade. I exhaled. So it's forged. Not even a good forgery, he said. They probably assumed no one would check. We file an injunction? He nodded. Immediately. And if they keep building after that, we go public. We drove straight to the courthouse. Filed the paperwork. I watched the clerk stamp it with legal weight. My hands didn't stop shaking until we walked out. Shane clapped my shoulder. First step's done. Now we wait. I didn't have to wait long. The next morning, I opened the door and froze. My mailbox was in pieces, shredded like it had been hit with a bat. Deep tire marks carved a circle into my front lawn. I took out my phone and hit record. Whoever did this, I muttered, left a message. Loud and clear. By noon, I was at the hardware store buying motion cameras and floodlights. Trouble? The cashier asked as he rang up the equipment. Just making sure the dark stays honest. That night, I wired cameras to every corner of the property. I set up cloud backups. I built a digital fortress out of paranoia and spite. Next morning, I carried my folder into town like it was armor. I stopped for gas, folder in hand. Coffee? Folder in hand. No one was taking me by surprise again. Shane called. They're pretending the injunction doesn't exist. What? They sent a bulldozer this morning. Told the driver it was cleared. He backed off after I showed him the injunction. They're testing us. He agreed. We push harder. I'm requesting a hearing. I hung up and paced the living room. The footage from last night showed nothing, just a shadow passing near the mailbox before the cameras went up. I texted Shane again, if they don't stop, we go public. His reply came fast, start recording everything. So I did. Every interaction. Every vehicle. Every shadow that crossed my fence. When Deborah showed up again, clipboard and all, I hit record before I even opened the door. You're tampering with a public development, she snapped. You're trespassing, I said. You're obstructing approved work. I held up the injunction. You want to explain this to a judge? She paused. Just for a second. Then turned and walked away. I watched her heels click down the driveway. They thought I'd fold. They didn't realize I'd already turned my home into a fortress. And now, I had the paper trail to prove it. Shane called just after sunrise. They filed a counterclaim. I didn't say anything. They're alleging you're squatting. Claim your documents are forged. They're flipping it? I asked, gripping my mug tighter. They're saying I forged Elijah's deed? Exactly that. They've got nerve. They've got Brent Halloway, he said. CEO of Halcyon Estates. I looked out at the still-drying concrete line. He's the one pushing this? Publicly? No. Legally? Definitely. He filed through a shell company. I didn't respond. Shane lowered his voice. We need leverage. I'll get it. I stopped sleeping. Every spare minute went into researching Halcyon. Shane started poking around the county records office. He called me 3 days later. Marshall, I found something. Zoning board meetings were never held. What do you mean? I mean, the public hearings? The ones required by law before any development? Skipped. They didn't even pretend? No. And the signatures on the approval forms? Traced back to 2 county clerks, both received donations from Halcyon's PAC last year. I rubbed my temples. This goes deeper than just Brent. It goes to Deborah too. I nodded slowly. She's not just a loud clipboard. She's a chess piece. Exactly. The HOA's the weapon. Halcyon's the hand swinging it. That night, I uploaded everything. Footage. Documents. Comparison shots of forged permits. I posted on Facebook, Reddit, anywhere people might listen. It got some traction. Locals commented. A few offered support. But it wasn't enough. Then I remembered the HOA binder Aunt May kept in the living room, brown leather, dog-eared tabs. I flipped through it for hours. Meeting notes. Paint color codes. Garden regulations. I was about to give up when I saw it, tiny font, footnote, back of the voting procedures. Amendments impacting private property rights require 75% resident approval via formal vote. I read it again. Then a third time. I hadn't signed. Aunt May hadn't either. I picked up my phone. Shane, I found a clause. HOA can't touch private property without 75% approval. You're sure? It's in the charter. In writing. And I'm the only one who didn't sign. Marshall, that changes everything. I need that clause certified. I'll handle it. The next day, I walked into Deborah's front yard with the HOA binder under my arm. She stepped outside. What are you doing here? You forgot your own rules. I don't have time for this. Good, I said. You're going to need it, for court. I turned and left. Let her stew in it. I'd finally found their weak point, and this time, it was written in their own damn language. I saw the black Mercedes before I heard it. It rolled up like it owned the road. Deborah climbed out first, heels stabbing into the gravel. Clipboard clutched like a sword. Brent followed, suit too clean for real work. He held out a folded paper. Cease and desist, he said. I hit record on my phone. From who? Halcyon Estates. I didn't take it. You're on private property. Deborah stepped closer. This gate obstructs access to a planned development zone. I pointed. That sign says no trespassing. You push through, that's a crime. Brent sneered. You're playing with fire. I've got lawyers, I said. And cameras. Everything you say is being documented. Shane pulled up and parked behind them. He stepped out with a man I didn't recognize, gray suit, clipboard of his own. Legal observer, Shane said. Let's keep things civil. Deborah waved her document. This land falls within the HOA's oversight. Only with 75% consent, I shot back. And I never signed. You're obstructing progress. No, I'm stopping fraud. She took a step toward the gate. I didn't move. Don't, I said. You pass this fence, I press charges. Tires crunched behind me. I turned. It was Frank. He got out slow, eyes on Deborah. You think we don't know what you're doing? She stiffened. This doesn't concern you. Like hell it doesn't. You fined my wife for a birdbath. Said it was an eyesore. I was enforcing standards. You bullied half the street, he snapped. But you pushed the wrong man this time. A second car pulled up. Then a third. Neighbors I barely knew. Older couple from down the hill. Single mom with her toddler. The Sanders twins in their beat-up truck. What's going on? One asked. I raised my voice. They're trying to take my land. With forged documents. Fake votes. Murmurs spread. Phones came out. Cameras clicked on. Brent looked uncomfortable. We're done here. Deborah turned to him. No, we're not. We have rights. Not here you don't, Frank said. We're done being quiet. Deborah glanced at the growing crowd. Her face twisted. You're all making a mistake. I stepped closer. You already did. She turned and stormed back to the car, heels slipping in the dirt. Brent followed. The Mercedes peeled off without a word. Shane walked up beside me. That was beautiful. Frank chuckled. About time somebody stood up to her. I nodded. I didn't expect them to come. They've been waiting, he said. You just gave Em a reason. We stood by the gate while the others talked, compared notes, shared stories. Deborah had ruled this neighborhood with threats. But today, we pushed back. And this time, I wasn't alone. The courtroom smelled like dust and formality. Brent leaned back in his chair, smug. Deborah sat with perfect posture, lips pursed like she was preparing for a magazine cover. Their lawyer rose first. My clients represent lawful interests in community development. I tuned it out. Words like progress, blight, reinvestment. Nothing about lies. Then Shane stood. Let's talk documents, he said, walking to the projector. Exhibit A, Halcyon's permit submission. He clicked. Notice the seal. Too crisp. Digitally overlaid. Now, Exhibit B, county-issued permits from the same office, same year. Click. Hand stamped. Ink bleed. Registered seal ID. Now, the signature. He paused. Gerald Timmons. Retired 12 years ago. Lives in Arizona. Shane nodded to the back. Mr. Timmons, would you join us? An elderly man shuffled forward, adjusting his glasses. Is this your signature? Nope. Did you authorize this permit? Not a chance. Murmurs. The judge raised a brow. Shane turned back. Your Honor, Halcyon presented forged documents to justify illegal construction. He stepped aside. My stomach twisted. The bailiff called my name. I walked up. Hands cold. Mouth dry. State your name for the record. Marshall Ellis. Mr. Ellis, tell us why you're here. I looked at Deborah. Then Brent. They tried to erase my family. The judge leaned forward. My Aunt May left me 15 acres. My great-grandfather, Elijah, built it. He protected it, legally. I found the documents. The trust clause. The land was never part of any HOA expansion. I never signed. Neither did she. I opened the envelope. Letters. Notes. All carefully stacked. This is Aunt May's handwriting. This one's Elijah's. He wrote, I paused, voice cracking. No one will ever own this soil but kin. Silence. Just the quiet hum of courtroom lights. They forged permits. Lied about ownership. They tried to turn a family legacy into parking spaces. I looked at the judge. This land is more than grass. It's my blood. The judge asked, "Do you have the original deed?" "I do." I handed it over. Plus the notarized clause. He flipped through, expression unreadable. Then he looked at Brent and Deborah. "Anything to add?" Brent stood. "He's emotional." We followed procedure. Shane cut in. "No, you didn't. You built on stolen ground." The judge held up the deed. "This clause is binding. And the signatures on your permits? Fraudulent." Deborah whispered something to her lawyer. The judge's voice dropped. "You thought no one would question you. You were wrong." He set the papers down. "My ruling is clear, Mr. Ellis is the legal owner. All development must cease. Any existing structures are to be removed at Halcyon's cost." Brent's face cracked. Deborah sat frozen. I exhaled for the first time in days. The judge looked at me. "You've honored your family, Mr. Ellis. Court is adjourned." The gavel struck wood. I didn't move. I just won, but it hadn't sunk in yet. It wasn't just about land anymore. It was about standing up, and being heard. The gavel hadn't even cooled when the judge started. "This court finds in favor of Marshall Ellis." I blinked. The development was unauthorized. The submitted permits, nullified. The HOA acted outside its authority. Deborah's jaw didn't move, but I saw her clench. Hard. "Injunctions effective immediately," the judge continued. "All current construction to halt. HOA to pay fines. Community hearing within 30 days to elect new leadership." I glanced at Brent. He looked like he'd swallowed a lemon, and then choked on it. The judge added, "Mr. Holloway, Halcyon Estates is hereby barred from further development on the Ellis property. Your permits were forged. Any appeal must go through federal court." Shane leaned toward me. "That's it." I didn't answer. My heart was still thudding against my ribs. We stood. Frank met me outside the courtroom doors. "You did it," he said, clapping my back. "Hell, kid. You just made history." I exhaled. "I just want to go home." Reporters were waiting like sharks. Microphones out. Questions flying. "Mr. Ellis, how does it feel to beat a corporate developer? Did you expect the ruling to go your way? Will you sue Halcyon for damages?" Shane stepped in front of me. No comment. I kept walking. Past the flashbulbs. Past the headlines. I didn't want attention. I wanted silence. Chickens. Tomato vines. Dirt. Frank walked beside me. "You know the neighborhood's buzzing, right? I didn't do this for headlines." "You didn't have to," he said. "You did it for all of us." A woman I recognized, neighbor from 3 houses down, approached quietly. "Thank you. For standing up." I nodded. "I just wanted them to stop. They will now." Deborah came out a few minutes later. No cameras rushed her. Just quiet. She kept her eyes on the ground, walked fast to her car. Brent followed, looking like a man who just lost his empire. I didn't gloat. But I didn't feel sorry either. Frank handed me a folded piece of paper. Copy of the community petition. "We're voting her out." "Good," I said. "No one else should go through this." He grinned. "And you? What now?" I stared out at the courthouse steps. "I go home. Fix the fence. Water the garden. Normal life." Exactly. Shane joined us. Congratulations, Marshall. Thanks for sticking with me. He nodded. You never blinked. I smiled faintly. I wanted to. Plenty of times. You didn't. We shook hands. As I walked toward my truck, I looked back one last time. Clean stone building. Big justice in a small room. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't loud. But it was real. And for once, the system had listened. I drove away without fanfare. No music. No celebration. Just the sound of tires on gravel. And the knowledge that the land, my land, was safe. Finally. The tire ruts ran like claw marks across the pasture. Deep. Ugly. The kind of scars bulldozers leave behind when they don't care where they roll. I spent the first week just digging. Filling holes. Turning over the soil. Frank stood at the edge of the field, watching. You planning on fixing the whole damn place yourself? Feels like I should. You shouldn't, he said. But I get it. He brought over seeds. Peach saplings. A wheelbarrow full of compost. A neighbor I barely knew, Marla, dropped off paint cans. White for the fence. Like it used to be. Thanks, I said. She smiled. We watched you stand up. Least we can do is help clean up. The next day, the Miller twins showed up with shovels. Then the Ramos kids helped plant flowers around the mailbox. Someone left a chicken coop blueprint in my mailbox with a sticky note, "You earned your flock." I built the run behind the barn. It wasn't perfect. But the hens didn't mind. Every morning I watched them scratch at the earth like it had always been theirs. And maybe it had. The house stopped feeling haunted. The porch finally got its new boards. Frank brought his power drill and insisted on doing the rails. "This is how you know it's yours," he said, handing me a beer. "Not just legally. But physically. You sweat into it." "Feels good," I admitted. He grinned. "Told you it would." Deborah's house went quiet. Then one day, a moving truck showed up. By sundown, the for sale sign was out. Brent? Never saw him again. Word was he resigned. Something about restructuring. Didn't matter. The only titles I cared about were on deeds and seed packets. One afternoon, Marla stopped by again. "You ever think of running for HOA?" I nearly choked. "Absolutely not." She laughed. "Didn't think so. But people listen to you now. I'm fine just growing tomatoes." She winked. "And chickens." I stood at the edge of the field that evening, hands on hips, eyes on the trees we planted. It wasn't the same land I inherited. It was better. Healed. I knew where the roots came from now. Elijah. Aunt May. Even me. I wasn't just some guy who got lucky with a will. I'd earned this. Fought for it. The mailbox still had a few scrapes, but it stood tall. Fence shined under the setting sun. The coop clucked softly like a satisfied hum. I looked up at the sky and exhaled. I'm home. And for the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for anyone to take that away. People ask me now, "How'd you win?" I tell them, it wasn't the papers. Not the lawyer. Not even the clause. They always wait for the twist. It was grit, I say. Persistence. Knowing when to shut up, and when to speak so loud no one could ignore me. Most folks don't expect that. They think it takes money or favors. But it takes something quieter. Stubbornness. Frank once told me, "You don't beat power by yelling louder. You beat it by refusing to move." He was right. I still walk the orchard in the mornings. Trees are young, but they've rooted well. Every one of them stands on the scars we covered with soil and sweat. Sometimes I talk to them. Not out loud. Just in my head. You're safe now. The coop is always awake before me. Chickens peck around like tiny inspectors making sure I'm doing my job. I framed the deed. Hung it right above my desk. Beside it, the letter from Elijah. The one with the line that changed everything: no one will ever own this soil but kin. That sentence stopped me from giving up. I keep the lockbox in the bottom drawer. Still smells like dust and old cedar. Every so often, I open it, just to remind myself what almost got erased. Marla asked me last week, "Do you ever miss the quiet before all this?" "Sometimes," I said. "But not the fear." She nodded. "You gave this place a spine." I laughed. I just refused to bend mine. Frank visits every Friday. Brings eggs even though I've got hens of my own. "It's tradition now," he says. "Besides, mine lay better." He lies. But I let him have it. We sit on the porch and talk about nothing. Weather. Fencing. The time Deborah threatened to ban gnomes. He always shakes his head. That woman had more rules than sense. I smile. Where do you think she is now? Hopefully somewhere with no clipboards. The wind's good out here. Clean. You can hear yourself think. And sometimes, just for fun, I turn on the outdoor speakers. Classic country. Old Johnny Cash. Something with a rhythm that fits the beat of boots on dirt. I let it play while I walk the fence line. For the ghosts. For the neighbors. And, yeah, maybe for Deborah Langston too. In case she's out there somewhere, still clutching a rulebook, wondering why no one listens anymore. The truth is, this land was never just property. It was proof that some things, when held with love, grit, and a little chicken feed, can't be taken. Only defended. And I was never just defending dirt. I was defending legacy. Mine. Aunt May's. Elijah's. And now, every morning, the orchard whispers it back. We're still here.